Okay, I want to talk a little bit about resolution. I know it can be kind of confusing. So in this assignment, and if you're looking at this and you don't have this assignment, you can still understand what I'm saying. The images that you choose must be high enough that you could do something at, say, 8 by 10 inches with at least 200 ppi. So let's say that those are our parameters. So this is an image that's downloaded from just from Google, somebody's image. And if you look at the image size, and I'm in Photoshop, you can see that the width currently is set to 18 inches and the height is 11 at 300. And you'll notice the constraint here is on the width and height. So if we wanted to make some changes to this without actually degrading the image and without throwing away some of the pixel data, we would have to take off resample so that these things are all constrained. First, let's just see what the problem is. So I'm going to blow this up. Let's go down here and just type in 100%. And you can see that it's a little fuzzy. And if I sort of scroll around, you can see that there probably wasn't enough. Either when this picture was taken, there wasn't enough light for the exposure, because you can see a lot of like stuff that looks sort of like artifacts, but it's just, sort of bad digital color rendering, or it could have just been an image that was modified quite a bit. So there's some different things that you could do, and one of the things you might notice right off the bat is if we say go back down and look at it around 50%, you can see that it doesn't visually look quite as bad. If you were to blow this up on a screen, I think that my screen is about 1280 pixels, so if you can look at this somewhere in the ballpark of 1280 pixels, then you actually see in real time what I'm seeing. So let's go back now. Let's see how it could actually help us to reduce this down a little bit so that we can throw some of the pixel data away, but also so that we can start to make it look a lot better at 100%. So let's go back up here to image size. And like I said before, I'm going to disable the resample, and you can kind of see a little bit of what we've got here at 100%. It's also like, quite blurry in spots. And so from a distance, it's a beautiful picture, but when you zoom into 100%, it's kind of funky. And you can just imagine that if we were to actually go and sharpen this, that a lot of those sort of blown out colors would be even worse. So right now, the only thing that's kind of saving some of that is this blur. So what we can do is let's go ahead first of all and let's get this to be sort of the size that we want. And so if I said 8 by 10, let's say that in this case, this is the lower dimension. So let's just say that that's 8. And then now we've got a width of 13 inches. And so if I wanted, what I could do is I could go in and crop some of it later if the 8 by 10 thing really mattered, that much. I could figure out how I wanted it. So you might want to go ahead and have a concept of what your composition is going to be before you start to monkey with this too much. So, but anyway, let's just say that we're happy with this. And now I can take off resample. And the other thing that's kind of nice that I can do is if I wanted to go in here, I can change the resolution now. And let's just see what happens if I knock it down to 200%, or excuse me, 200 pixels per inch. You can start to see that this is a lot clearer. This image data is a lot cleaner looking. It's a lot clearer. And so if we hit OK, you can see down here that now we've got an image that's a lot nicer to look at. Let's go back to 100% so we can see what we're actually dealing with. And some of the fuzziness is gone because we've basically given it more definition by reducing the pixel size and throwing some of the data away. And if you don't want to zoom in beyond 100% because that's not useful. And if this is still a little bit, not clean enough, what you could also come in and do is I'm just going to do something quick and dirty. You could do these with adjustments or, adjustment layers or whatever, but I'm just going to do something really quick and dirty. So I'm going to go up here to adjustments, and let's try curves for instance. And one of the things that I could do with the curves is in these trees, if I darken it a little bit so that I don't have as much of that bright light color that's kind of really mucking this whole area up. Let's drop it down so we have a little bit darker definition, but now it's sort of dimming out the entire picture, you see. And so what we could try to do is bring this line back up to bring some of the lighter tones. So what we're doing is we're increasing the contrast a little bit, actually quite a bit, and you can start to see that some of that pixel information, now that it's dark, it almost just looks more like tree bark now. And so these are some of the kinds of little tricks that you can do to sort of push and pull the light the way that you want it. You can also, go in and mess around with the different channels so that you can adjust them independently of one another. You could once I start doing this, you see what happens is that I'm lowering the contrast. So I want it to be down here where the darkest pixels are available if I hit OK. So that's one option. You can also, play around with the levels too. Now the levels actually are pretty darn good because we have a representation of the blackest of blacks and the whitest of whites. So really it's all about what's happening in the gammas in the midtones, right? So if I come and do this, you see it starts to get like really blown out in a very light, bright way. If I wanted to sort of create a darker forest, I could come in here and I could adjust some of this. Now, this is, like I said, just an example of something quick and dirty that you could do. And all of a sudden, you've got something that at 100% is better looking. And depending on what it is that you're trying to composite into this image, you can also come through and do some touch up with, painting tools. You have to be kind of careful so that you don't smear it around and, make it look unrealistic because this has a lot of definition. But, and if you really, wanted to try to focus, your attention sort of more in one area than the other. Like maybe this back part can't really take a whole lot of sharpening. If you wanted to try to sharpen it up, I don't think this back part could really handle it. If you wanted to see it really quick, we could do a really quick demonstration of how that might look. So, you start to see a lot more of this sort of degraded pixel information. If we turn the radius up, we can really see it if we do something dramatic. So if we do something like this, you can really start to see like what's really happening when you turn, these sharpening tools up, and we can like see what happens when we take the preview off. So, I mean, that's obviously way too sharp anyway. But like maybe this foreground could use a little bit of sharpening, but I'm not so sure that the back really can handle it. I think it degrades it too much. So one of the things that we could do is we could do something like, let's take the paintbrush. Okay, and I'm just going to turn on the masking tool so that I can paint the stuff that I want to get rid of, right? So we're going to get rid of all of this. And you'll see that right now I've got my opacity and flow turned all the way up. So I could have made probably a larger brush, but like I don't really want any of this tree stuff to get any more pixelated than it is. So now what I might do at this point to kind of blend this in gradually is I might take my opacity and turn it down some. And I'm just experimenting, and I'm just going to kind of paint this in a little bit so that really what we're doing is we're kind of sharpening this stuff in the foreground. And let's just say that that's our goal, okay? Maybe that's the whole thing that we're trying to do. And then what I can do is turn that back off, and now I've got my selection. What I could do is I'm going to go ahead and turn my marching ants off, the selection edges off. Now it's still selected, I just can't see it. And what I could try to do, and just so you could see as an example, is I could say, all right, well, I want to do unsharp mask, And if I turn the preview off, notice what's happening down here, okay? You can kind of see it. Let me turn it up dramatically, and you can really see what's happening. So that's the active area that you can be, sort of paying attention to. But you can see that I'm sharpening it significantly, and then, if I turn the radius up just a little bit as well, maybe we could sharpen it, and if this is an area that you kind of want to focus on and the other part sort of recedes, then you could do that. This wasn't the best selection. I could probably have made it a little bit more gradual and maybe pulled it up so that it starts to get a little more focus right back here. But anyway, you sort of get the idea that you can highlight different parts of the image. And if I turn that preview off, you see that the front goes a little blurry, gets a little bit sharper. And so there's some different things that you could do to kind of monkey around with your image. Okay, so I'm going to end this demonstration here, and hopefully that helps you understand some of the things that you can do with resolution on images that otherwise might not be exactly perfect.